Well, I'm gosh, after an introduction like that, I don't know if I can live up to my own pre-interview.
Nowhere to go but down from here.
Oh my gosh.
We've always enjoyed our time with you. We always learn something. Our listeners learn so much. For those of you listening, though, comment. Do leave your interactions below. We've interacted with literally thousands of replies, in these, and Juan has as well. He'll even screenshot some of them, send them to us. So he's heavily engaged in this process. We feel like we're all in this boat together at the same time. Yep. We're all kind of experiencing the same things, but sometimes we're looking out of a different window. If you've ever been on an airplane, you've got an aisle seat, maybe somebody else has a window seat. Well, Juan's got a really good seat to see a lot of things, and right now I think he's in the seat looking out a window in Washington, D.C.
In Washington, D.C., so he's right there in the center.
Yeah, it's the heart of darkness right here. Fortunately, they've got the swamp caged off with a security zone, a protective zone, the concertina wire, etc. Nothing's getting in or out without going through security there over at the White House. And it's not just a little security zone. It's like a mile around.
Man, and I'm so glad you're there because, we're hearing from people, that's been taken down a long time ago. So it's good to have somebody that's actually there that can actually tell us what is.
I love that viral video by that senator, I forget her name, is Bober from Colorado.
Bober, yes.
Yeah, she's got that, she won kind of a like Ken Classic, but she's walking through D.C. and she's walking by the wall, though, and she's like, what you call it, Fort Pelosi, and she's like, she's like, Mrs. Pelosi, take down this wall, kind of a Reagan-esque. It's a great video, and it needs to be seen.
That's true, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you got to wonder, if Congress has to have a security fence protected from the people, it's supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And there's a certain symbology. If this is supposed to be government for the people, and the whole idea is that you can look at it one of two ways. Either they're fenced it off to protect themselves from the rest of the country, or they fenced it off, and they're sending you symbology, what they want to do for the rest of the country. They want to fence us off from everything productive out into the future, somehow. So you got to wonder what's really going on there. Certainly this hasn't existed that I recall any time in my lifetime, and we've had some pretty serious moments. And they did take down the larger security perimeter that was all through this D.C. area that was set up prior to the inauguration. And so back in mid-January, they put this amazing blocks and pillars and fencing and everything else in there. And that has been removed and not put back in place. But the smaller stuff around the White House and Congress is still there.
Interesting. How about military? Do you see them there as well?
They're not readily visible, but they are definitely here. For example, the signs are still out in front of the restaurant, 25% discount to National Guard.
Wow, that's good.
And then I don't want to say the location, but one of the locations that I have people that I've been putting up here in town over the last few days for some interviews and other work that I had to do. Not here to protest or do anything else, by the way. I'm saying that specifically to the FBI agents that I spoke with the other day. I haven't paid for anybody to come to town to do anything in the way of protests ever. And so that was one of the specific questions. And, of course, that there was some folks that I flew out to Nevada for our meeting, but I did not pay for anybody to come into D.C. or protest or be part of any meetings out here prior to, during, or after the 6th. And other than a couple of business meetings that I've had in town in just the last few days, that's the only exception. So completely unrelated to any protests in Washington, D.C. But that's, the FBI is out actively looking for anybody that they can pin with having had some role in financing the protesters. Well, the only question I'd have is, okay, let's flip it over the other way. How many of these protesters in all the cities across the country, going back over the last year, had financing, and who did that come from?
have to look at those credit card records.
Yeah, let's go back and relook at that. If you're going to ask one way, why don't we ask the other way? Who was financing these protesters? That's not over. Anybody that thinks that card has all been played, it's done, it's the last hand, it's not relevant. We're not done.
That's interesting that you bring it up, because the question we get from a lot of people is, there are people that definitely feel disheartened. They were like, okay, November 3rd, everything's gonna be okay. Okay, January 6th, everything's gonna be okay. Okay, January 20th, everything's gonna be okay. Okay, maybe March the 4th. Obviously these dates have passed. What is your thought? Like, what's going on right now? What do you think?
One cowboy I follow has been saying April 1st for a long, long time.
That is true. That is true.
Well, okay, so let's do this for everybody that's out there. I have said it numerous times. For about a year and a half, the bets that I had with friends over this election, I'd get them all wound up mentally that I hedged my bets, saying that by April 1st, anybody that voted for Trump would be the smart ones, because Trump would be recognized as president, even if you had whatever the candidate before Biden was even the nominee, whoever the Democrat was. I said, that they would be the fool for backing whoever the Democratic nominee was, and then when Biden became the nominee, Biden. And so I did quite a few bets amongst friends, dinner. One of them related to a whole time equation, wanted to bet a very valuable watch. And so we had some fun with that. And I mean, we're buddies, and nobody was betting the farm. Okay, we had some meaningful bets, but they weren't. Nobody was going to die.
Gentlemen's bets with gentlemen that have nice things.
Yeah.
Yeah, having some fun and putting some skin in the game, backing our positions, meaningful between us as friends. No friendship on the line over win or lose or whatever. And so certainly, guys doing what guys do. Okay. Sorry. It's just the way it is. And so, with that in mind, I'd cook their brains, because April 1st, what's that all about? No, this is about the 20th of January. Like, no, do April 1st. And, so I haven't changed that bet at all. And I'll live or die, sink or swim on the April 1st date. But like I had one of my guys that called out of New York here, I don't know, 2-3 days ago. And he was all, you still thinking you're going to win that bet? And I said, yep. And he says, but the March 4th thing didn't happen. And I said, well, it wasn't March 4th. It was March 4 to 6. And that was never the bet. I said I would be out here because certainly they had upped the prices. There was some kind of indication the money was spent for this company to have the facilities out there and deployed, and that was prepaid for. But I never said that I believed that was the drop dead date. I was certainly going to be here to be present because it's an interesting thing, but that's not the bet. I said, our bet's April 1st. And even what was written, I said that President Trump would be recognized as the president. But I said, and even in the recent times, there's room for dual presidency, just like Jefferson Davis and Lincoln. People forget there was a dual presidency coming into the Civil War because of the way the vote was held. And that dispute wasn't resolved instantly. So you had a Jefferson Davis, Lincoln dual presidency. In many people's minds, even right now, there's this perception that some kind of dual presidency exists even now. Well, you could go back into the past and say that even during all of Trump's presidency, you really had a ghosting dual presidency because Obama was doing things behind the scenes and coordinating things behind the scenes that amounted to him operating in something approaching a presidential role, with him and his cohorts trying to affect politics in America as a former president acting as controlling things like a president somehow. It's kind of a stretch. I'm not going to go too far on that, but I mean, I recognize what they're saying. Moving forward right now, President Trump stepped down according to the law and stepped away from the office of the president on January 20th. And yet there is a component here where, and we've talked about it in your show numerous times. I don't have to belabor the point. I've talked about it on numerous shows. The military didn't have a legal entry point or obligation to act until Congress had failed to protect the Constitution and the Republic by intervening on this false, fraudulent Pearl Harbor attack, digital attack on the American people through this falsified digital vote. They didn't act prior to the inauguration event for Joe Biden on the 20th of January. The courts failed to act prior to that swearing-in moment, and then have doubled down, tripled down on their position since, with failing to take action with a third attempt by the states to get some kind of hearing, and other Pearsons, Powell and others, with their legal actions over the last several days. So at the end of the day, both Congress and the courts have not seen fit to do anything to push back on, overturn this digital fraud on America.